Okay, so welcome, guys. Beautiful to see all of you. And yeah, so good to see you after a little break that we had.
Yeah, well, the break was quite productive because, as we said, it was my daughter's 16th birthday. So she absolutely wanted to. Well, we can't travel anywhere from here. So basically, we went to Paris. But so this break was very fruitful because we brought new insights and understandings from there. And that's what we are going to share today.
And we also brought something new from there, and that's a new gold teapot.
And that's with what we will start.
Yeah. So
let's join our cups.
yeah. Yeah, geez, beautiful cups.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Miriam, this is, well, that one contains the ghost, yeah? That fulfills how many wishes?
All wishes.
I love it. Not three.
It reminded me of this when you showed it. So yours always also like an amazing lamp.
Well, ours
Yeah.
have an unlimited capacity.
But also a little chain. Ours has an unlimited capacity to bring us any wished tea, but it's a little bit limited to the tea. Yeah. Well,
So welcome, dear ones.
welcome and cheers. And then another thing that Evia brought from Paris is the visit to Chartres and the Chartres Cathedral. And then Chartres Cathedral is the one that has this amazing labyrinth on its floor. And if you read Da Vinci Code, there is a lot of encodement that is there explained about that particular labyrinth.
Yeah, so the whole cathedral, it was on my bucket list forever. And now suddenly, I drag a 16-year-old teenager to, 1 hour train from Paris and back. And I said, no, I'll go to do your shoppings, anything you want, but you have to do my cathedral. And at some point she says, there must be something really special about that cathedral for you to put such an effort in getting there. And actually that effort was really, really worth it because I have read so much about it, heard so much about it. It's referenced in every esoteric kind of mysteries and alchemies connected context. And what this cathedral is really special about, so it does have this labyrinth really in the middle of the floor. But the whole cathedral was built with the knowledge that technically they didn't have at that time. It was the first Gothic cathedral, but built according to, proportions of Egyptian pyramids, Solomon's temple. So nobody knows who the real architect behind that plan was. And because it was built by a group of people who actually meditated before starting the day of building, even, just putting stones in place. They had a heart meditation, and if they didn't feel like they're completely in the heart, well, they didn't work on that day. So every stone is very specifically placed with specific intention, and the whole cathedral is built. So the labyrinth is what we'll talk about, but the resonator, let's say the structure above it, has been created with the purpose of transforming the mankind, mapped to proportions of a man, but gigantic, like a huge extension of a man and divine proportions to enhance any practice that is done in the cathedral. So imagine, well, of course, now because of the virus, normally every Friday they still allow to walk the labyrinth. Now, because of the situation, it's all covered with chairs and you can't walk it because then people are too close to each other. So unfortunately, even that is kind of disappearing. But nevertheless, the power in the place regardless if you walk it right then and there, is completely there. So they say that this cathedral is such a divine perfection that it's music frozen in time.
This is what it looks like. This is that cathedrals, a labyrinth when the chairs are removed and when people are actually walking the labyrinth. So,
and it's true when they say that a person doesn't exit this cathedral the same as he entered. That is completely true, because this huge resonator that holds such amount of divine symbols and geometries actually acts on body, but from outside in. And of course it impacted me in big ways and brought many kind of moments of clarity and revelation. So the revelation of the labyrinth itself was something that clicked together, because we're very passionate about labyrinths as such, and you'll share how it's specific in your life.
The name of the cathedral always is Chartres. Chartres is the place, the town about 30-40 minutes from Paris, right?
No, it's an hour, yeah.
An hour from Paris?
Yeah. Exactly, yes. Thank you, Al.
It's a Gothic cathedral that is imbued with many other things as well. So balance of masculine and feminine. If you look it from outside, it has different towers, one representing a male power, one representing the female power. It's very, very encoded. Like all of these Gothic cathedrals, they're very alchemically encoded.
And it's built on in a specific place, on an ancient Druid worship place on dolmens, actually. And there are like 7 streams gathering under the floor of that cathedral, the place where it was built. And also a major crossroads of ley lines. So anything done there actually streams through the ley lines. So it's Christiane, you can spend days exploring the cathedral. That's exactly right, because it's amazing how well in plain sight actually highly alchemical notions are.
Well, actually, come to think of it, alchemy has been really encoded in Gothic cathedrals in that time, because text about alchemy could not have been written because of the Inquisition and because of that being a very hidden science at the time. So the creators of the cathedrals have actually encoded alchemical formulas in the buildings themselves. And if you know how to, it's with having a key. If you know how to read them, then you have really alchemical formulas, how to transmute certain parts of yourself. And if you're interested in these parallels, is, as a matter of fact, the only good book about alchemy, because we cannot read books on alchemy, because books on alchemy are on purpose encoded that if you read them literally, you will be sidetracked on purpose and there will be no results. But one alchemical book exists, and it's called The Mystery of Cathedrals by alchemist named Fulcanelli. And if you want one book about alchemy that will actually guide you through the cathedrals, where you can read yourself what is encoded in there, that's, I would say, the only book to read. So
and I think it was not, nobody even knows who the author really was.
No, Fulcanelli, it's encoded name. It would be very dangerous if he revealed his identity. So the whole story about Fulcanelli is interesting. If you want to do a little research, you'll see that nobody knows who it is. It's highly adept person who had high knowledge, but he felt with that alchemy school at the time that humanity is ready to receive that information. And he, under the hidden name, wrote this book. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody knows who he is. And, nobody knows identity. Book is out there, though. So,
Yeah, so having experienced the energy of that labyrinth and the power of transmutation that it can have, of course, ideally, we should have a little labyrinth in our gardens, you know, to walk every now and then. But even though we can always reduce it to a small size, because how we usually do, we can do it literally, or we can transpose actually, you know, change the body to finger, or however else.
so to begin, I
yeah.
guess before really explain what is the labyrinth, we wanted to see if you guys, what are your connections to the labyrinth? You all kind of came to join us in this topic. Do you have some sort of connection to it? Is it something, how do you associate the labyrinth itself to your experience? Is it something interesting? Is it something a little scary, mystical? What is your connection to labyrinths? Or have you had an experience? Have you walked a labyrinth?
I
Hannah?
got lost in a labyrinth.
Yeah. Or have you watched maybe The Shining and the last scenes of Shining movie?
Pan.
Or Pan's Labyrinth, exactly. Oh, they're all very, very encoded movies. Yes, Hannah.
I think for me it's an exciting feeling because when I was a child, I don't know where it was, but we walked through an actual like labyrinth garden, and it was so much fun. It was really a lot of fun, kind of to walk through the lush green paths and to take time. And I just remember it was fun. I don't know where or why we did it or who was with me there, but I just remember like when I was, I don't know, younger than 10, something like that. So I enjoyed it.
And was it full height or it was on the floor? Were you enclosed in it or
No,
not?
full height. Full height. Yeah.
How? What was the feeling like? Did you know how to get through it, or?
I think since I wasn't alone, we were a couple of people, so it was a lot of fun, and we walked, I think, all the way through it. Yeah, it took some time.
Great, thank you. How about somebody else? Have you had experiences with labyrinths yourself? Or maybe through the books or any first-hand experience?
Yeah, shall I share?
Yes, Miriam,
yeah,
please.
and then Uwe.
Uh-huh.
And then Sylvia.
Yeah, I've walked several labyrinths in over the years, and it was kind of mostly kind of meditative walking through. But once in Australia, I think it was in Mullumbimby, in the Crystal Palace or the Crystal Castle, it's called. Well, that was amazing. That was really amazing. You walked in between the, huge, not stones. How do you say?
Crystals.
Well, the special stones, crystals and other. Yeah, beautiful stones. So that was really, then I felt the power. Yeah, that was amazing. That was really imprinted in my body, and I will never forget that.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
So then Uwe and then Sylvia.
Hello everyone, good to be part of the this week's
amazing topic. Yeah,
really, really cool. Glad that I could make it.
Uh-huh.
I was always attracted by Labyrinth. I don't know why, especially in my youth. I remember when visiting castles or so, and when they had a labyrinth. Some castles do have a labyrinth. I don't know why actually, and so I was always amazed. I wanted to do it. So I was attracted, but I cannot say why, or it had no reason. I just wanted to go through the labyrinth and to find out. Also, I remember in Europa Park, there is a fun park or so, and they have a labyrinth house. So you have to find your way through in a way. And I could do this the entire day, like finding the way, the mirror room and whatnot. So I was always attracted by the labyrinths. I have no idea why, and I just wanted to share this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. That attraction, wow. Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia.
Thank you. In my childhood, we traveled around Hungary a lot, and there are these amazing castles in the countryside from the Renaissance and also from the Gothic times, and they had actually labyrinth from, so it's from the fen or from the bush. It's alive, and it felt really high to me. I was little, and that I really, really enjoyed. That was one of my most exciting times, besides visiting the castles. And some castles actually had like these mirror rooms that felt like a labyrinth, that wherever you went, the mirrors were just multiplying themselves. And I was just at one point really didn't know what was real and what wasn't, and where my father was and where my sister was. So at one point it was funny, but after a while I got a little bit scared actually, because they were giggling, and I just didn't get where the voice was coming. And during one of these holidays, we stayed at a little privately owned hotel, and the guy who owned it, or the man who owned it, was very much into gardening, and he made like one garden for like fairy tale characters, most probably for children. So I spent most of the time there, and there was another garden for actually couples, and he created a labyrinth. And I remember my my mother and father disappeared in that place, and they said that it's only for adults, so I couldn't follow them. But I remember that I was just waiting, that when are they coming or what's going on. And so I just went into my fairy tale garden, but I remember that they spent hours there, and I think they just got lost. But yeah, it was fun. It's fun. Thank you. But there
Wow.
was a little bit of scary element, especially with the mirrors. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ivy, I can probably tell you about this reminds us of the experience we had in Poland in November, where we had the simple one, but mirror labyrinth in even little art exhibition place, and that
Yeah.
moment where you understand that you really don't know how to get out of there.
Yeah,
That
and,
is-
and here.
And as I'm saying that, the
Marek.
guy is joining us, Marek, who has actually been there with us.
Hi,
So
Marek.
he's still connecting to the audio. But that moment where you start just seeing your... Hi, Marek, we're talking about the labyrinth, glass
That we did
labyrinth
together
that we
in,
did together in Poland in November. So Evia really started to kind of be a little scared, and I could feel that her field got a little bit agitated, so I had to go in to rescue her from
from the back door.
the mirrors, because all of a sudden this really you see that you've been here many times, and you're
Yeah.
going in circles.
Well, actually, when you are inside of...
Actually, at one point, I really felt, because they were just giggling, and at one point I got so confused that I was almost crying, and then my father came. Hey, I'm here. Say that, don't worry, it's all good, and it was just fun. Yeah, that's a funny, tricky. It's very tricky.
Yeah, the labyrinth is a very psychological kind of test. So the labyrinth from plants feels safer, even if it's high. You're going around, it feels a little bit real, yeah. But when you are in that mirror maze, like we were with Marek in Poland, which was actually well done, because it gave impression that there are like 10 paths, but there was only one, and you don't know which one. And actually those mirrors have this specific effect of connecting to the other dimensions. So that's actually what is creating the panic, because the souls who have been involved with magic or alchemy in past lives, they know exactly what mirror dimensions are about. And so
and
the
that you can be locked in
you
a
can be
mirror
locked in
dimension
a mirror
without
dimension forever.
possibility
Yeah.
to leave. Yeah.
And you know, it actually exists that some occult practices lock their opponents in this mirror maze, and they have to stay there forever. So it's the mirror labyrinth is, yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't be very excited about it. So Ev shared about, do you guys have access to chat? So did everybody see what Ev shared about labyrinths in England and cornfields? And the most powerful was a little one in Bali in a garden drawn with stones. Yes, so we will explain what is the difference. So which labyrinths are energetically transforming and which are just, you know, beautiful to look at.
Yeah, but pretty much there are these two types of labyrinths. One is that there is a continuous path that you go through, and it is mapped to a certain function that we want to explore while going through it. So it has one path, and you are going through that path, and actually by turning and twisting and following that path, you are actually working on some aspect of the interior or exterior energetics. There is other type of labyrinth, and I don't know if maze or labyrinth.
Maze, actually. So thank you for for giving the definition.
And
that
this
is actually the difference. Yeah, the maze is where you have to really make choices about.
Yeah, those have actually the paths where you can lose yourself, and you know where they have dead ends and islands where you can go forever in the circles. So we will share one of the most known legend of the labyrinths. In this legend, that's the type of labyrinth that was there. That was made for a purpose of keeping a wild beast inside so that it cannot escape. So did you want to say something before we go to the legend? Because that legend has encoded really the function of the labyrinth.
Yeah, let's start from the very beginning. From the very beginning of who even came up with the idea of a labyrinth, and then we will move it towards how, you know, how can we use it for our transformational processes.
Yeah. So that legend, the most famous legend about labyrinths is the one of Ariadne's thread. Ariadne and Theseus and Minotaur. So it's a Greek legend, and it is about the king of Crete, Minos, who actually spoke with Poseidon and asked Poseidon to kind of send him this beautiful white bull as something that he can sacrifice in the name of Poseidon. So, you know, he just wanted to express his gratitude to Poseidon for kind of having accompanied him through those war victories. And Poseidon sent a beautiful, wonderful white bull. And when Minos saw the bull, he was so enchanted by it that he decided that he's not going to sacrifice him. He's going to sacrifice one of his own other bulls and keep this one. So he kept the white bull, and Poseidon was, of course, not happy about it. So in order to kind of avenge, he spelled Minos, his wife, to actually fall in love with the bull and procreate. So the child of human and the bull was born, Minotaur, which is half bull, half man. So as that Minotaur grew, it was starting to be a really huge beast that was kind of impossible to control, and it was asking human sacrifice to be offered to him. So like every year, a certain number of people and children needed to be fed so that he doesn't really wreak havoc in the whole Crete. So what Minos did is he consulted Daedalus, and you remember Daedalus and Icarus, they're those inventors who invented the wings to fly close to the sun. He hired Daedalus to actually construct an unescapable labyrinth that they're going to build around Minotaur so that he cannot escape anymore. So overnight they did that. They built this labyrinth, and the Minotaur was in the center. Still, in order to keep him appeased, they had to come and offer that offerings. But at least it wasn't dangerous for the Crete anymore because he was confined. And in order to feed him, they had to conquer Athens, and actually they fed Minotaur, Athenian slaves and Athenian children and Athenian women. So there comes Theseus. Theseus is this hero who actually solved this thing and who is the hero of the story. Theseus is the son of Athenian king who came to be sacrificed himself, but Ariadne, who is Crete's king's daughter, falls in love with him, and they conspire with Daedalus to actually help him find the way out of the labyrinth. So what they did is Daedalus explained to Theseus how to navigate to get to the center, but in order to come out, Ariadne was giving him a thread, like a line that he goes, and as he goes through the labyrinth, the thread stays behind. So once that he reached the center, he faced the Minotaur, and he was able to slay it, to kill it with the double axe. He would never be able to find his way out, but then following the thread that Ariadne kept for him, he slowly got out of it. So he was able to perform this deed. So why is this symbolic? Is because the labyrinth looks like this, pretty much like our brain. So to get zigzagging in and get to the center where the Minotaur is we go through the meanders pretty much of our brain and subconscious, in order to finally in the center meet the beast of our own fears and the beast of our own ego.
And to meet our fear of death, because what actually happens when Theseus slays Minotaur, the one who is devouring, the whole population very regularly, and on specific moons, by the way. So it represents this unsatiable ego going through life that always needs more, needs different, needs something.
But needs things that are really, it costs you to give. It needs your life force. Literally, you're giving parts of your vital energy to feed it.
Mm-hmm. So the Minotaur represents this voracious ego that grabs things forcefully. And slaying the dragon means actually facing one's own fears, one's own fear of death. So going through the labyrinth represents going through those fears, of being this, being that, being lost, being confused. But the ultimate fear is the fear of death. So when that is conquered, then that middle part, which is, in this labyrinth drawing, you can see that it looks like a rose. Yeah. So, well, it has for specific alchemical reason, it has 6 petals. But imagine even in this, church, cathedral, Christians were there. This in the middle, that little square, there was a bronze thick plate depicting
Minotaur.
This final scene of slaying the Minotaur, so in a Christian church. So the only reason it was removed because they made arms, cannons out of that brass, for example. But it was right there, and it's a huge archetype. So we have been going around and about as humankind, following these myths, which are actually setting the archetypes of what we're supposed to do. So if we don't take them literally, but transpose to what we, how we go through our transformational journey, we can understand what it is that we're supposed to do once we walk through the labyrinth, and we can make it a conscious process.
So show a little how it's easy to actually get lost there. If you don't have the path, if you don't have the thread to follow, it's really super easy to get lost in those sidelines of the subconscious mind.
Yeah, when you rise above and you see this structure from above, you see that it has a clear pattern. It's very structured. But imagine that if you are in it and it's dark and somehow you don't see past the curve.
You only see to the curve.
This is the difference in, all mystery schools have taken this labyrinth to take their initiates through. And they have kept that knowledge really secret. But what is that difference about is that a non-initiate is living in this labyrinthic maze, but it doesn't know that it's a path that only moves forward. Because if you follow the path, and that's why it's not a maze, it's a labyrinth. If you follow the path, however it turns, even if it seems like going backwards, it will lead to the center. But a non-initiated mind, freaks out at the curve and says, no, it can't be there, or it's expecting something to be around the corner, having doubt, backing out, starting again, and not seeing the whole picture. So the way, like the difference between conscious and unconscious, according to those mystery schools, is that unconscious person will never see, will go for that ego grabbing for things, thinking that it will be here, or here's the happiness, or here's the fulfillment. So dashing back and forth a little bit, like a chicken without a head, trying to find something.
Or meeting, so every turn is
a new fear
trial.
Or trial, yes.
So it can say, okay, I don't want to face this one, let me try to find another way. Or you get to this curve and say, okay, I've solved this one, it's enough. When is the journey? I've worked on this so much, it's enough, this must be the end.
Yeah.
And then you keep right here till the end of the life, never passing this point. Say, okay, this is, I worked with, my... whatever parents, fear, it could be parents or fear of death, and we spend here the rest of our life. The actual connection to divine force is right here in the center. Outside of that, we are in a very limited reality.
Especially that, it's concentric. There are 11 rings here, but so the way it goes through, it's not like that towards the end. It's going in a little bit weird pattern, but you never know. If you don't have the view from above, you never know that you're just like one turn from the end. And the biggest challenges are exactly in the place you seem like, oh, I'm coming here, it could be easy to get right here. No, you go back the whole way, like this, again here, and you seem to get more and more far from any, understanding or purpose.
Getting farther in order to get closer.
And then eventually you come closer again and understand that, oh, I'm almost there, but no, and you're swayed back. So this is how that spiritual path goes. It draws you close to enlightenment, takes you back for review, pulls you closer again, till finally, if you really don't freak out in the curve before the end, because that's the closer it gets to the center, the bigger... the scarier it gets, because it's triggering every level of your being. So if you manage to, and that's what that mystery school is about, they give the reassurance to disciples, keep moving, no matter what happens, what sensations you have, just keep moving, just keep going,
one step
straight.
At a time.
Yeah, even if you think it's going backwards, keep moving. You will be... Any moving is better than getting stuck in a curve, or backing, going back because you're
But
caught in doubt.
subjectively, it feels awful. It feels, you know, I don't want to go there. This is not me. This is not my fear. I'm not fearing this. It feels like chickening out. And actually, really, just the dedication keeps us going on. And yeah.
testing us in those same. So, for example, every loop, the third, you can see there are like folds here. So every loop is a stronger and deeper version of one of your core fears. Let's say if there are 4 sections and you have more or less 4 core fears about abandonment, death, poverty and pain. Yeah. So every fold will bring events that kind of push in that direction. So the initiate would understand, okay, this is my journey, this is my path to follow. And because initiate does have an Ariadne thread, it says, okay, I'm moving forward with faith because I know that I will find my way back. And it has a clear goal at the end. Clear goal to meet fearlessly the Minotaur, which represents the deadly
yeah, let's clarify this goal, this thing about the thread. So we go towards the enlightenment. This is the journey inside towards the center. The main obstacle to the enlightenment is the Minotaur, which is our worst, deepest fears. But then once we have actually able to slay it and to connect to the divine force, there needs to be the way out
into the
in
world.
order to go back to the world and act in a world that is normal with our enlightened consciousness. So the problem is that without the thread, there's no way to get out of it. We would get kind of
lost in parallel worlds, actually.
Yes, exactly.
Because this here, the ultimate consciousness opens up. Because once you get yourself out of the way, this is where it happens. You slay your shadow, in a way. This is where you sort of fall through. It's a vertical thing, you know. It's not a place to be. It's a vertical thing, and many dimensions and understandings open up, and everything is more exciting than the physical world. Everything. So it doesn't really. It's not exciting to go.
Go back into the body and back into the mundane world. However, you know, many of the enlightened masters have decided not to come back, but it takes really dedication and special sort of inner task to come back and now help humanity, you know, get onto that level themselves.
Plus, every person that has walked the maze with this consciousness, transformative consciousness, leaves the imprint of, that transformation in it. So the way it is done in the cathedral and in any other place, it's a person entering on a specific date, which is indicated by the light falling through those stained window glasses.
Here is how that light looks like.
Yeah.
And actually these notches here is actually where a specific part of the light comes in order to start the journey. So where it comes here, it means this is the right day.
Yeah.
To actually come in and do it.
It's like a cosmic clock activating the right moment. So the person comes and stands here. This is the entrance. With bare feet, just as it was made, and they say erect, but erect means really like a string, so that full connection to the cosmic energies is flowing through. So super straight, with bare feet, to be in touch with the encoded stones, and first stretching arms like this, like we said, to greet the sun, in Y position, and then starting the journey with absolute humbleness and dedication at the same time, by having a clear guidance what these parts are mapped to.
And I will in parallel, so Evia will go through this, and I will in parallel give you the steps of the alchemical process. There are 7 levels of alchemical process: calcination, dissolution, separation, conjunction, fermentation, distillation, and coagulation. So I will in parallel illustrate what happens. So, you think, oh, it's easy, let me transmute these couple of things and I'll be ready. Well, there's a little bit deeper process in order to get through the whole alchemical path. So first one is calcination, and this happens when you decide to enter the maze. And calcination means you put yourself in the cauldron and the fire is underneath. So whatever you're made of starts burning in order to for the process to start. And process is burning from the inside in order to distill and to understand what is the negative part of yourself that you want to get rid of and what is there to keep, what is the divine part. So it's the fires of calcination that starts at this entrance.
So the whole structure is a giant cauldron, because these pathways are actually concentrating the life stream. That's why the process is intense and definite and actually transformational, because we have hard time focusing our life stream into something one, because we have millions of thoughts and we're spreading out. So while entering these lines, actually all of our life stream is concentrated for that one purpose. So every step actually counts.
And let me just give the concrete what happened to the initiate when it starts this part that Evia is showing. That burning off by the fire, calcination part, means breaking down of the ego, starting to break down the ego, and destruction of your attachment to material possessions. So this is the first step when you enter there. So it's willingness to be wrong about key issues and no longer cling to your hard-held positions. This is the beginning of the destruction of the stubbornness. That's this first step.
Yeah, and so who came up with this idea, like publicly, at least to the known sources, were the early Gnostics, and they believed in transformation through knowledge. So philosopher's stone actually is a transformation through Sophia mind understanding. So that's why this is a conscious process. If you walk it just like that, things will happen because, of everything, accumulation of the previous blueprints. But in order for it to work really profoundly, it has been mapped to the zones or to your own system, what is going to be transmuted. So this understanding, the knowledge is slaying the dragon. So the knowledge is slaying the ignorance. So that's why the understanding of the process for Gnostics was a key element. And entering with understanding is the way to success.
So after a few turns that we have made, and this pretty much this first step was deciding to light that fire of initiation. Second phase of alchemy is called dissolution. What that means is there is always a parallel in the chemical world, but actually there is a parallel of our inner process. So dissolution is the process that's dissolving the ashes from what has been burned by the fire in water. So that's the chemical aspect of it. Spiritual aspect of it is further letting go of the ego so the true self can be revealed. So it's immersion of the unconscious into the feminine, non-rational parts of our mind, where the conscious mind lets go of control. We all know this, yeah? We have been mapped into very rational mind. Well, the second step is we go back to the intuitive. So moving away from seeing cause and of your life events in the external and understanding that they are actually inside. Everything is a reflection of yourself.
So you see that this brings us very quickly, yeah? So we started here, we made one turn, second turn, and we are also already very, very close to the center. So this point is what we call in our system spiritual honeymoon. When a person starts this transformational journey, is like,
it's working.
It's working. I can feel things. I'm complete oneness. I'm one with all that is. I love everything and everyone.
Releasing things.
Yes, I have done everything with my parents. I'm free. I started my new path.
Because first things
because
to be released.
Feel it. You feel, you actually actively feel beaming of your own light here, and you have come to say hi in a, in a very kind of quick way. We've all been there. We know what it is and what happens next.
Because we have changed.
You have a little pleasure. There's a little journey that actually goes next to your true self, and this is where it's the first bliss. And then
because we have transmuted the things that were easy to transmute, these are the first things that we willingly give out and say, okay, I know it's not working. It wasn't such tremendous effort. It's easy to do this work.
And then from here, ting, 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 ting. And here you understand, okay, things are happening, but, there are many opinions, and should I listen to this, should I listen to that? I don't know which my voice exactly is. Then you get more elements, and at some point, so the next time that you are getting close happens at the third step.
The third step is separation. The separation is in chemical parallel, is extracting the material from that solution by heating and filtration. So we filter out and separate the things from each other. So in the inner world, what happens is, I thought this was going to be easy, but I'm kind of encountering still more and more things. I thought it would be finished by now. I thought this is already finished, but actually there are more things, and it feels like I will have to catalog my unalignments. And this is where we come to what we call black and white mirror, where we actually decide, okay, I'm going to write this down somewhere, and I will actually start to really write what are the difficult aspects of myself that I really still need to work on, and I have to be deadly honest with myself, and I have to see things in myself that I really hate, that I'm ashamed of, and that I would never share with anyone, but I must share because it's ridiculous and it feels super unpleasant. For example, things where you are really acting in an inhonest way, but spiritually bypassing it and kind of explaining it as a part of your journey, for example, or staying in a comfort of, I'm not going to choose one or the other because I'm in the oneness, whereas it takes courage to actually choose one, but we spiritually bypass it. So wherever we find ourselves in a shameful situation where we still, for example, fake that we have power, but we call it that we are powerful because we have found some internal way to reassure ourselves that we have power, but we're actually cowards to meet real change. Those are now the deeper things that we are encountering with the separation. So with separation, what happens is you separate really your emotions and thoughts so that you can clearly see each individual emotion and thought that you're experiencing. So it's really raising the level of precision. What do you see in your process? Are you overwhelmed by the change, or you actually see every thought and every emotion and you bravely actually write it in and say, this is my BS. It's nothing else. It's my BS. So you separate your thoughts and you decide what to discard and what to reintegrate into your new being after the process is done. The next thing you do is you face your shadow side. This is this ugly and shameful side where all of those thoughts and shameful feelings start to kind of bubble and come to the surface. And are you going to be honest enough, or are you going to pretend still once again that this is not yours and you don't have it? And most importantly, this phase, owning everything. Owning the BS, owning your feelings, owning your patterns. Understanding this comes maybe from the mother field, this comes from the father field. I'm owning it because only by owning it you're able to transmute it and release it.
So this all this doubt is happening actually again one curve apart from being very close to the center. So this is the moment between this curve and this one. This is where we feel like, it didn't work. I should, go back to my old self, but that is no longer available. So I don't know how to move forward. I have nowhere to go back to. So this is this kind of little bit desperate moment, which we associate with. I call it again in my system a fake dark night of the soul. Because it's a fake dark night of the soul, because you feel like you are all that you was so beautifully starting swayed you back and forth, and you don't know, instead of more clarity you have more confusion, and like you don't know really what practices to do and how. But if you sit through it and really just keep walking with confusion, with no clarity at all, with everything boiling and bubbling. So if you just keep walking, you will hit the turn where you will be again in the aura of your light here. And this path is actually this stabilization of clarity. We understand, okay, I get it. It's not gonna be 5 minutes. It's things repeating. I really do have to do a work. One workshop will not be enough. So you settle in something that is your own understanding of how the process is going to be. And you sort of, by the end of this curve, you receive enough encouragement of your own light to say, well, you know what? However, I'm going to stick to it anyways. But of course, you hope that it will, from here, will point right in as soon as you make that decision. But
it goes in the next direction.
It goes back into exploring the next chapter of fears and doubts. So again, you feel like getting more and more far from the clarity. And plus it's changing directions. It's going really to the outer circles. The outer circles are the deepest levels, deepest levels of your unconscious.
So in that,
till the edge.
So in that path that Evia has shown, where we are close to that inner light, we get to that phase of conjunction. And conjunction is the fourth phase of alchemy. And conjunction is now, in chemical aspect, the recombination of the saved elements. So we have released parts that were dark, that we didn't want, that were somebody else's, not ours, brainwashed by the society, and we have kept the ones that we want to be, where we mirror the divine, where we are divine creators, where we are boundless. And conjunction is now recombining of those saved elements into the new substance, new you, that is only combined from those light aspects that you have chosen to create. So it's joining together the true essences of your being, following the purification. So that's the creating that inner space. At least now we have a little neutral inner space where you're completely honest and true, and you are following the purification and refinement in full honesty and full acceptance. So here we start to do the sacred balance and sacred marriage of your inner masculine and feminine.
This part and this part.
And we start actually recognizing for the first time that inner balance. And in that conjunction is where we create the new body that has finally the balance of masculine and feminine energies. And it is the end of what we call the lower work, the lower work of spiritualizing the body itself. So the next stage is going to be to bring in the divine aspect into this purified body.
So you saw when we left this beautiful space where we thought we're almost there again. So you see, this is long. It's visiting the parents and conscious and subconscious, masculine and feminine, going in rounds and turns, to the places we thought we already visited, to to come eventually, more in the masculine, more in the feminine. So one time you're focusing on this, then back to that, and it's long. It's a long moving forwards, and if you stop in the middle in doubt, well, it takes even more time. But every curve, these are the moments of kind of unexpected events or strong push or kind of revelations that actually make you turn and start another little journey.
In this
So
labyrinth,
this is
there
how
are
it
something
goes.
like 78 curves. So you have to face 78 of your inner unalignments in
Yeah.
order to really
And this is going to that
fully clear.
outer line, which is the ultimate depths, like you're cleaning the corners of your being, like sweeping under the carpets, beds, and attics, and whatever hidden places they are, and then
And then the next step is actually the upper 3 levels. So we have purified ourselves to enough, at least we have a place where we are pure. We still have maybe peripheral parts that need some more purification, but at least there is a clear core now where we can receive the divine energy. And that's when we come to the 5th level of fermentation. And fermentation in the chemical aspect is adding new life into the product of conjunction to completely change its characteristics. So it's like when you have a dough and you introduce the yeast in order to make it rise. So in this alchemical aspect, this yeast is not little mushrooms, but it is actually the divine substance, the spirit. So
this happens in this line towards the center. You see, this looks like a flower. So when you, after this curve, this is where you introduce that fermentation, or really you're maturing your being.
So what happens practically in that maturing is we really commit to deep meditations, to intense prayer, to desire for the union with the spirit. This is where we really get serious. And you say, okay, so we really want to be one with that higher force. We don't believe in material signs that only things on earth exist and nothing else. We connect to the spirit. And we ask for divine intervention to help us on this way. It is equivalent to Daedalus giving Theseus the plan of the labyrinth. We need somebody who can see this thing from above. They know how to guide us, and they know they are somebody we can rely on. Usually in this stage we encounter what is called the real dark night of the soul. So this is where we have complete doubts, because we have to completely now obliterate whatever little parts of our ego has stayed, because
This little one.
Huh?
Yeah, this little one. You see, theoretically you could just go straight, but no, there is the last point where you can't go straight because you have to turn right. And this is where you think, oh, I know I'm almost there, because you can see it. You can see clearly that it's there. And for some reason, this is where you say no, no. I'm leaving all spiritual things on the side. It doesn't work.
It's frightening, because it really feels, well, okay, I thought I did everything.
I'm tired
how
and
am I
broke,
supposed to? How am I supposed to
support.
release even this? I'm gonna lose myself. It's like, it's really, what stays of me if I release this? It feels like
at
really
least
death.
before I was something, and so the concentrate of doubts is in this 90-degree angle, where we have to either then still keep walking, and if you keep walking, something extraordinary will happen here, and you will hit the finish line.
But what's interesting about this phase is, here we really cannot imagine what we're going to be transmuted into. If you try to imagine who am I going to be, no way, because you have to release the part that is even telling you who you might going to be. So it's like full trust in the universe, in the process, and in the divine.
Yeah, so this curve is the ultimate trust, because this line that separates from the finish is so profoundly disturbing, because you don't know anymore where to look for the solution. You don't know, like, even whom to ask. It seems to be no one seems to be around who can tell anything
except the divine, who is always there.
Yeah. So this is where you throw your hands in the air and said, okay, I get it. I don't know. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe this is all going nowhere, and still I'm going. And in the moment that you can find the strength of saying, no matter what, I started it, I'll finish it, no matter where it leads us, it actually, trumpets and applauses in the heavens, and some unexpected opening appears to allow this last loop to happen and gloriously walk into...
So this last part represents the last two parts of the alchemical process, distillation and coagulation. Distillation is final refining process of what comes out as a process of fermentation. So it is heating the substance and condensing the essences that were driven off from fermentation into the more purified form. So if you do chemical aspect of it, it is a parallel of what happens inside. On the actual inside level, it is integrating your ongoing spiritual realizations into your daily life. So it is really starting to live impeccably, really starting to have impeccable deeds that are completely, like, every step is in integrity and honesty. Every step, literally everything you do, and it is more concerned with the greater good than yourself. So
because that yourself, like the selfish self, is done here. Because from here, the next level of understanding opens up, and you understand, wow, but what was I so attached to, and what was I concerned about? Because sometimes, when we speak about killing the ego or detaching the self from here, it's not the same thing, because we're doing it because we're told to do, but we don't feel like, and we don't really understand how to do or what's the purpose, and it feels a little bit irritating to release the personality. But from here, because these all petals, these are the crown chakra opens, and you just know. You just know that there's no need for self, strongly individuated self. Yet there is a self, a pure, refined composition of frequencies. And this is where you hear your own sound. This is where you have access, where we can call it higher self, we can call it to your divine part. But this is where you are entering in affinity with your own sound, because you have access to your specific frequency. So you don't dissolve as individual. You just lose the grabbing self. You still keep the ego, but as Sadhguru says, for different kinds of tasks, you need different kinds of ego. You roll it out, you pull it back in. You roll it out, you pull it back in.
You use it doesn't use you.
Exactly. So from shadow, you become, the human who casts the shadow.
Because ego is still going to be the one that drives your body. But from this place of oneness, you command it what to do. Drive my body in order to make, like, gathering for people, or to gather the funds to make the school for this community or something like this. So you command the ego what to do.
Yeah. So in this point, you have distilled clearly what is you and what is not you, and this is where you need that thread to come out, because you don't feel like getting back to that the world, and even talking to people who are light years away from understanding anything. But with this enlightened perspective, you have to consolidate in a way that pure personality that is connected but individual at the same time. Well, the conscious drop of the ocean, but which is a willing part of the ocean. Yeah.
And this, what Ariadne now said, is what's called coagulation. So this penultimate distillation, at the end of the distillation, is what we call enlightenment. And after that enlightenment, coagulation is finally fusing this connection with the divine source and our material manifestation in the world in one. they are forever connected and there is no going back. That's that coagulation. It completes this fuse together and it always becomes one. Soul and spirit are merged into oneness. And from now we know and understand everything.
And you see that way out. It's not like, okay, there's a little back door and we pop out of the maze. No, because this is your life. So basically you go back the same way you came in, except that when you see other churning people sitting in the curve and saying, oh, I don't believe in anything anymore, I've done all the work and still nothing is, I don't see any progress. Well, you'll say, just keep walking. It's not far, just keep walking.
Or give some like advice or some help that they are ready to receive without judgments. Now you have a big picture. You see the maze from above.
You will walk back out, visiting the same places, but with that absolutely new awareness and perspective. So it will be just a journey. You'll move forward. No matter, the things that were there will not matter that much anymore, but you will be of a blessing to anyone who is at any point of these curves.
So once that we are out, then you are back into the world enlightened. And what this means is like what the Buddhist masters and Taoist masters say: before enlightenment, carry water. After enlightenment, carry water. So we continue, but now with completely different understanding and humbleness, and really kind of smiling from the inside. Everything is perfect, and it has always been. And it was just our complication in our mind that actually didn't allow us to see it previously.
So the main difference between a person walking towards the center and a person walking out of the center is that in the journey towards the center, we are fighting our psychological drama. There's no like real thing. It's all psychological drama where emotions are running wild, thoughts are creating, imaginary stories, dark zones, dark corners, and whatever drive we have is dedicated to extinguish fires of emotions. Basically all these corners are made to ignite the emotions in different ways through different triggers, and the whole section. So you can imagine that, you see, it's a little bit like a cross section. You have left and right, for example, for mother and father and masculine and feminine, yet they are also connected like this, masculine with father, feminine with mother.
I'm actually
sorry.
I'm not in the camera that shows this here. Show it again.
So you see, so it's a cross section, but it's not defined. So you can imagine that here is the whole father part and mother part, earthly or heavenly, we will see that later. And here is the whole masculine and feminine part. But if you separate them like this, there's a masculine and father and feminine and mother. So basically our meandering through the labyrinth of our own life is trying to find that balance between the mother and father, masculine and feminine, and to come to that ultimate resolution of understanding, like, where is you, where is you in all of that.
The beauty of that symbol of labyrinth is that we can really map all of those different aspects of it. We can map alchemical journey to it, like we explained. We can also map masculine, feminine, mother, father. We can map different functions to it, and then by walking it and making those curves, actually facing what really happens when we turn 180 degrees in our life. Every physical turn of 180 degree, you know this from walking. When you walk and then suddenly turn around, you have completely different energy and you see completely different view. So this as well happens in the labyrinth, but much more frequently than in your regular life. So it's condensed here. The transformations are condensed.
So it is a scheme. It's a technology. So we can use it the way we find appropriate for any given moment, for a little misalignment or for a whole life. Depends on how much focus you can put in mapping these zones.
And now we have also explained the 7 levels of alchemy. So this shows a little bit like the insight of what true spiritual journey is, and what we need to do in order to come really close to the union. So maybe if we are in the step 1 or 2, it might seem daunting that, how far we are. But we are also not doing all this really in linear progression. We can go back and forth, and we can jump onto that higher connections during the process. So, but it is a journey. It is a journey of really making oneself a gold, from being a lead at the beginning, very heavy, into being completely refined.
Yeah, so that philosopher's stone, they map it like the Holy Grail is what you attain when you connect to your true knowledge, and that philosopher's stone is actually this knowledge that helps you reach the wholeness, the completion. And when an initiate actually knows that by entering here, what the journey will look like, well, it has more of kind of peace to just keep going through whatever comes. Let's say for us, we didn't receive really that information, so we just had to sit for quite a while in some of the curves and go back and forth. So what makes the journey long is our resistances. So when we don't want to move forward, well, we move backwards, or we sit for a while in some of the loops.
And as Zen meditators know, it's possible to have Satori, and Satori is out of the blue connection with the divine source. So that bypasses this whole kind of journey through the labyrinth. You become one, and you kind of feel that oneness, and you can already come back to the world and start acting. So we can really bypass this whole journey if the humbleness and absence of mind and attachments is such that it allows it. Usually what's in the way is mind and really being stubborn in keeping the ways of being that we know from before. So I think at this point maybe...
So the
180 degree turns can open 20/20 vision in hindsight and also in foresight. Exactly. Lisa.
Because those turns are when we loops is when we our world changes from round to flat, or from flat to round, and we have this like huge insight. Oh my God, I just got it. So these are the 180 degree turns where you take a new curve. So usually it happens through a super revealing workshop, or you read a book, or you brought your energies to the next level of frequencies actually. And sometimes it happens actually that by totally getting a chunk of transformations, you can also jump rings, and suddenly find yourself kind of skipping lines. It's possible. So that is a little bit the pattern of how our lives are mapped, and it is actually the journey through our minds. We have been given the mind to use it as a tool. Well, it has been using us most of the time. So this maze is actually just getting out of our minds.
And just to show what this picture also can represent is that it really looks like a brain. You see that it has like little curves here, and this to me looks like pineal gland. And it looks to me that going through the mazes of the mind, we get to the ultimate connection to the divine. So that we can look at it as horizontal cross-section through the brain, like this, like horizontal. And then at some point, we can also see that this is horizontal cross-section from our energy field, and that this center is actually, not this one, but this one. Well, this center is actually the spine, the spinal cord, and that we get to the connection to the divine going through the spinal cord and the antenna of our brain, and then connecting to the divine source, and that get the shortcut into those insights that come through from the direct connection.
Put it back for a second.
To us?
Yeah.
To the labyrinth.
The labyrinth. So another powerful moment to understand is that the symbol of a labyrinth has it's a combination of four most powerful kind of geometrical symbols in all in one place. So there's a dot. The dot is the center. There's a cross, which separates those sections. There's a circle that contains the whole thing, and there's a spiral, which is the dynamics. It's the energy in movement. Yeah. So it can be endless to explain how many levels of encoded meanings are in dot plus circle. It's a sign of the sun. Alchemy, gold. Imagine that how appropriate that the dot and the circle is the symbol of gold and the sun. Yeah, and this is alchemical. Gold is that the circle, and the cross is a symbol of the earth, the earthly things. So that is superposing actually the symbol of the sun. So in a way, from circle with a cross, which is the earth, we move to the circle with a dot, which is the sun. And from, let's say, being born and created in this world as material beings, we reach our distilled version of divine beings. So that's what the journey is about. And once we reach that distilled state, we spiritualize the matter in our turn. So you understand how many concentrated messages are just in this one process. So I guess if you just take this one and really follow and map everything on the labyrinth, it's the simplest tool there is to address.
Well, it's certainly powerful, yeah. So what we wanted to do today is actually kind of trace this labyrinth together, and so that you can feel what it feels like to actually go through a transformation through the path of a labyrinth. And what we're going to do today is we will just trace it with a finger or a pen, but with previously really mapping the labyrinth on something that we want to work on. And I would suggest we can try to work with
our beloved masculine, feminine, mother and father, because that's what mostly this labyrinth is mapped to anyways. And that the journey through aligning the masculine and feminine, mother and father, is a little bit endless, but the real end to it is through this middle of dying to one's earthly self and dying to the earthly parents as well, and being born into that idea of that we are the children of the sun, dot and circle, yeah, and that we are eternal beings and we cannot associate with the temporary notions. Yeah. But before we start doing that, Well, we have
We
given
have
you
downloaded the whole alchemy to you,
in
and-
1 hour.
and Ev has
You might
asked
have questions.
if this is what's in the book, Mystery of the Cathedral. No, not
No.
necessarily. This is really an overview of what alchemy is, and this is what we gathered through our work with alchemy and kind of
Yeah.
made it into the short explanation. What are the different phases? I don't think. No, it's
It
not
doesn't
purely in
stand
that
in one
book.
place written like that. That's for sure.
Mhm.
Because this is our distillation, our elixir of millions of books and the Damanur and the alchemy schools and everything.
And also, like, gives you a nice overview of what the spiritual journey is, and
Yeah,
what to expect.
and to be honest, really, it all came together when I was sitting, on a
Yes, Jill,
chair
you are in that journey.
next to that center. I was, sitting and meditating, and it's like, okay, let's just get it from the source. Okay, tell me, like, LA, speak. And it actually it did perform the revelation moment while physically sitting on that labyrinth, where all those dots came together and I had this like bird's view of I say, oh my god, like how did I not see it before? But lack of height, yeah, and the cathedral compensated for my lack of height to really pull it together in the easiest possible way.
Mhm.
So this is this kind of labyrinth, but the actual Minotaur labyrinth still exists in Crete. Yeah, the whole thing supposedly happened in Crete, and it exists simpler than this.
Mhm.
We even have an image of that. The
Yeah,
Cretan labyrinth.
the
is that
simple labyrinth is this. Let me go to it. It's this. This is a simple labyrinth, and we don't have time that I kind of show you really quickly how to draw this. But the point is, when we start drawing it, that every, like artists that are painting icons, they ask the divine to bless every brush stroke, and that they bring the divine essence into the final painting. Well, when you draw your labyrinth, you assign every stroke to a meaning and actually infuse it with meaning before you start drawing it. So this is one of the labyrinths that the typical labyrinth that is drawn.
Well, yeah, it looks like a red cabbage cut in half.
It also looks like a different projection
onion.
of a brain. So if we cut the brain like this one looks like that, and we cut it like horizontally, then we have the other one. So this one is like the side section, and this one is the top section. So what we can do is draw a labyrinth and actually trace it by our finger, and then later map it to the body. Or we can have a big labyrinth and walk it like these people here in Chartres Cathedral. Or we can actually make it like this in a garden and actually walk the paths themselves by assigning what it's going to be like, what is going to be the meaning. Yeah.
Or I've even saw that mowing the lawn in a pattern, like cutting the grass in this particular pattern, or drawing it on sand on a large beach. So actually, if you learn, it's really simple. This one, Cretan one, is very simple. So if you learn how to draw it, only by drawing it, you will have walked it. And I think you have a large beach at your disposal, or a huge garden that you can cut the grass in a shape of labyrinth.
So we wanted to open for a few questions before we do.
And then we will do all together. And I see that Jill is all about practicing the journey method of Brandon Bayes for 20 years, yeah? So it's a pleasure that now you understand what the journey is about. Good.
It's really amazing. I mean, I've never used this kind of words you just gave. It's a totally new language for me. And it's very interesting and a lot of fun. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
This
know.
is
It's
the
a lot of
language of
fun.
alchemy.
In those curves, we have a lot of fun.
I wouldn't call it fun every time. Sometimes it's very dramatic.
Well, you know,
but it's fun at the end of the
the fun
transformation.
is that actually my biggest revelation that kind of jolted me in that cathedral was that actually we're having Victor going through those labyrinths and I'm holding the thread, you know.
We totally
But we're
embodied that
actually
journey.
embodying the archetype full on. And I was like, okay. Okay, that puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
So, if by any chance you because it has to be done in a couple. So, Lisa, what's your question?
So it's about the with the labyrinth that we can just throw one thing into the cauldron at a time, so that the whole experience isn't so bogglingly huge. So just taking, just one journey, one part of the ego into the cauldron at one time. So yes, it would mean that we can go in and out of the labyrinth infinite times, but it's like ripping off the band-aid slowly as opposed to ripping it off quickly.
Yeah, that's exactly the good parallel. Ripping the band-aid slowly is walking it with doubts, and ripping it quickly is understanding, okay, if the point is to get to out of all my fears, well, let's just freaking do it, you know, like and any resistance you meet, you just tell yourself, okay, stop it, it's not real, stop it, just keep going.
Yeah.
But if it's too much of psychological discomfort, then we can help ourselves by walking the labyrinth within our labyrinth, because our life is the labyrinth. You are walking it every day, want it or not. But you can do your little labyrinth within the labyrinth by putting a specific trait that you want to address and align. This is what we're going to do right now. We're going to address, specifically accelerate that part of our wanting to move on. So anything that really doesn't allow you to move forward, you can create a little labyrinth just for that, to dissolve it, to like mini alchemize,
zoom in.
mini alchemize one, for example, attachment or one fear. If you have a fear of, I don't know, not being good enough, as most of us do, well, you can put that in the center of the flower, yeah, and say, okay, so I'll walk all four sides consciously, and when I'm there in the middle, I will be free. I will conquer my fear of not being good enough. Yeah.
And really observing what
you want
happens.
to transmute happens here.
Yeah.
And you just map that whatever needs to be energetically dissolved will sit in these corners, and you'll just bravely move forward. Because the decision of starting to walk it counts for 90% of the journey. The journey itself is 10%. But the willingness to do it counts for 90% of work to be done.
Until you actually start meeting these things that you're not really willing to change. And then it can be more or less energy to get out of those patterns that we are kind of still stubbornly having. So, when you get to the center of the labyrinth, you will know what it is. It's probably something really kind of that feels awful, but then after you can laugh about it.
And also, you mentioned with skipping through points. But is that, it's like you say at these points that it's really important for us to look into the dark aspects of ourselves. Do we run the risk then if we're like, I'll just go over there. I'll take the shortcut to there and know that being over there, I've taken care of all of that. It's like,
You put it back.
no, I don't know that I want to cut through the hedge. I need to really walk the labyrinth.
Well,
Yeah. I'll show you what happens.
One way to look at it is, in the legend, we had Daedalus and Ariadne. It's good to have somebody who is checking and saying when you are kind of BSing yourself and getting you back to saying, no, you are trying to bypass this.
Yeah.
And Evia will show you like graphically what it looks like, but it's great to have both Daedalus and Ariadne because both of them are helping us in different ways. One is keeping us on the journey, and another one is kind of making sure that we know how to extricate ourselves from it. So this is what it looks like.
The shortcuts don't, these are walls. Imagine thick stone walls. You can't, there's no way, you don't even know where the next line would be and to which side to skip. Because sometimes you need to skip to this side in order to move forward. It's not necessarily to that side. So you don't know to where the shortcut would be. But if you have, this is a walking every experience full on, full size with people involved, the actual drama, betrayals, husbands and whatever, partners, businesses. So this is a full on life performance. So the moment that you actually by some coincidence can stop and say, wow, but this is not real. I don't think this needs to have so much impact on me. Maybe I'm just repeating my parents' patterns. Zoot, a little door appears from one ring to the next because you just got it. So you spare yourself the full curve of going to the lawsuit and, trying to prove yourself right and get your money back and like this. The moment you understand what the thing is about, a little door opens. And if you understand even, but this is my parents and grandparents and actually I just need to drop any importance in my life and be happy and joyful. Well, if you can just do that, tick, 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 all the doors to the center will just burst open. If you can just summon the truth in you that tells it instantly, all the doors open. But until then, there's no way you are in that corridor. So BSing yourself is saying, but I'm almost at the end, or I'm moving at a fast pace. You can also trick yourself about the journey itself, but you can't open the doors.
Yeah. That's the
by
favorite
yourself,
one.
From that space of ego. I've done it all. I am there.
Yeah, the favorite one that we love to hear is, but I've done so much work.
Well, this is equal of sitting here and saying, okay, you can put it back. So saying I am there is the first thing that indicates that you are not there. Because you might be sitting in the farthest corner of the labyrinth and feeling, yes, well, there's no, that's it. I have done it. But it doesn't feel true. There's no one supporting that idea. And this is when you feel that you are there, it might be actually that you're in the farthest out ring from it.
It's simple to know if we are there. Yeah, if we are there, everything happens.
It just is.
Exactly, very quickly, the things miraculously start happening in our life that we have just willed to happen, and we are blissful. So these are your two things. If you're blissful in every moment and things miraculously happen as you have imagined, you are there.
And you don't have
if
to
it's not like that yet, well, then we have a couple of more curves to go.
Yeah.
But especially if we feel blissful. At every moment, that is very close to we are there. If we don't feel blissful, it means, we're close, but
we're
not
still
yet.
in one or the other. Because we have many illusions. As much as our imagination can be a good tool, it is also a sort of creating a hallucination of our reality. It's creating a false sensations of achievement or disappointment or unworthiness. So it's our imagination that is going out of control. And we just move through it.
And another question. So going into the labyrinth, and then you're talking about the string coming back out. There's something about the journey back out and the embodiment of, you're talking about this earth with the sun, but taking what you've got at that core through the labyrinth back out into the actual earth.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just leap over the top, or do you have to walk back out there? You actually have to, because it is for me about taking that into the earth world, being able to exist. That's what it's about. We people going, enlightenment, rah. It's like, but you need to be walking the path, not sitting over there in an enlightenment.
But of course,
like, yes,
of
yeah,
course,
because Ariadne was there with the thread, so that Theseus wouldn't get lost. So he is enlightened, but never again part of this world. So he would stay where Minotaur was. It's like a rose in a desert. It's a beautiful rose, but nobody sees it nor has any use for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so it's
so
coming.
It's almost like not a thread. It's almost like a fishing line that you need to have someone like going, no. You've got it.
Yeah.
Amazing. You need to bring that back out, like reeling you back out almost.
Exactly.
It could be like that, but you can imagine as a thread because he was willing to come back, but he didn't know how.
Yeah.
You see?
For love, he was willing to come back.
Yeah, for love, for humanity, actually, because he was obviously in love with Ariadne. Yeah. So.
Well, Jesus is your other illustration. Jesus has actually died, gotten the enlightenment, and then decided to come back and into the crappy world, and then to kind of like share what he had learned. So we have Buddha as well. We have. Well, pretty much we have three archetypes. You have Jesus as one, Buddha as the second one, and the third is alchemical one, Hermes Trismegistus. So these are the three archetypes for humanity, and the best will be that now we embody all three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Buddha, Jesus, and Hermes. And Hermes is a little bit most kind of hidden because it was very much veiled in. All of them are both men and women.
Yeah,
there is no men and women. This is the same. Jesus is both man and woman. Buddha is both man and woman, and Hermes is both man and woman. So,
but Jesus still had Mary Magdalene holding the thread and field for him to be able to accomplish. So it is a couples thing, especially when it comes to establishing archetypes or transmuting through the archetypes. So of course there are women involved, and it's not just a man's thing. But regardless of that, when you reach that center and you merge with the sun and the spiritual knowledge, you spiritualize the matter by every step that you make back into the world, by blessing the people that are on your way, by blessing the land you step on, by creating actually the pathways for others to follow. So this is spiritualizing the matter through. But then it doesn't matter what you do. You do whatever, it will matter. So that's the difference, that you will go out by casting the light on that very journey that brought you in.
So it is so important to retrace your steps.
Yeah.
Well, it's so important to retrace those steps.
Yeah.
With new level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
And actually the labyrinth crumbles after every step out. It dissipates and disappears because there's no more labyrinth, but you still have to retrace your steps back. So that's why the thread.
And let's not forget, the labyrinth is not really this. This people walking, they can see the labyrinth. The real labyrinth, this is representation of the labyrinth. Real labyrinth has high walls, and you don't see the actual whole thing. That's why he needed the thread, because he felt always in a corridor, in a dark corridor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So shall we try? Do you? How many of you do have the labyrinth?
The printouts. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
okay.
cool.
Yeah, great.
Oh, wonderful,
great.
wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
In many ways you do have. Otherwise, if you don't have the printout, I will move it from through here, or you want to do it. You just
No, you
follow
do it.
the path and do it with your eyes visually, yeah?
So before we begin, we will map what we want to work with on this labyrinth. And originally how you would do it while drawing. But now, because we don't have time, we will just map it now as through our intention. What is this labyrinth right now going to mean for us?
Mm-hmm.
And we want it to mean...
So you do the cross section, vertical cross section first. So in generally speaking, if we are wired in standard polarities, the left side would be the feminine and the right side would be masculine. So you take it as you face it, yeah? Not in as if you were the page, but exactly as you're facing it. So for me, your left hand goes onto your feminine side, your right hand goes onto your masculine side.
So with these hands we infuse.
Yeah.
So left is my divine feminine, right is my divine masculine, and we all have divine masculine and feminine. So you infuse these into the labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
The center is the full alignment, perfect alignment of my inner masculine and feminine.
You infuse
So
it
put
with
the
your
finger.
index finger, yeah? The center.
And then up and down, up. Yeah, we are infusing here as well.
So you remember feminine and masculine, so half of it will go to your mother and father. So accordingly, on the feminine side, the mother goes here in that square.
No, up and down. We want to say that up, this part up here is the father and down is the mother. Up and down. So like this, holding. So eventually they will all converge in the center. But as we work, we want to get rid of all that is divine, that is the father's version of masculine out, and have back to the divine masculine. And then whatever was the mother's underlying feminine out and back to the divine feminine. So these are the points. So up is my own father, physical father, and down is my own physical mother.
But if we speak in quarters, so the whole left side half is your own divine feminine, and the other half is your own divine feminine plus the mother's overlay. And same on this side. Here you have a quarter of your own masculine, and this is your own masculine with the father's overlay. Yeah.
So you see, it's kind of like a chart. So in this part, the divine feminine and my mother had mixed. So here it's unclarity of my mother mixed with the divine masculine feminine. So I don't know when I'm actually acting in the right undamaged pure feminine. The same is here, mixed my own father with the divine masculine, and this is the mixed area. So we want to go back into the center and have clear exactly father sky, mother earth. This is exactly how it is. And also on the astrology wheel, this would be Capricorn and this would be Cancer. So this is the father influence and mother influence. Exactly, that's why it's mapped like that. So let's put now a little bit through the concentration. Put your hands on left and right, infuse it with divine masculine, divine feminine, and you can do it here. And then let's infuse up with my physical father, down with my physical mother, and the center with purely aligned masculinity and femininity within myself. when you're ready, we take 3 deep breaths to get fully into this process.
We remember that our index finger is our magic wand. That's why choose the index finger of your right hand as concentrated extension of yourself, and it will represent your physical walking through the structure.
And we're gonna walk and feel every curve and every flat part, and try to feel in your body how these polarities are aligned and getting towards the center where they're all fully perfectly aligned in the divine perfection. So when you're ready,
you might feel somewhat of a feeling of clicking in a bigger egregore, because this is a consecrated structure, so it has been mapped for thousands of years. So you will click in millions of people who have done it before you. So you can take it on your own pace, or we can do it in the same rhythm, as long as you breathe deeply through the process and surrender to and welcome the
changes.
The change.
So let's begin.
So we start here.
if you're ready, breathe in and map this movement onto the cross section of your body and into the spine. And feel this final result go up and down your spine. Down into the center of the Mother Earth, from your heart, and from your heart up into the center of the universe. And down into the heart. Through the alchemical principle, as above, so below, as below, so above. And with 3 times breathing it in and out, we instill it into your physical body and physical cells. So it is, so it is, so it is. So we don't want to put many words.
You felt it.
So keep this experience and maybe write a little bit about what had happened. Let's maybe stay a few minutes so people can feel it. So any insights that you have from this, let them sink in, and maybe whenever you can, write them and understand what had happened. So I think not too many words after this. Just a big hug and thank you.
And keep going through your amazing lives.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is very powerful. I had a total brain freeze in the middle. I thought I lost the line.
Yes, I felt it.
Like a total brain freeze. That means that collectively, by joining our energies, we have, opened the secret doors, I think, for each other. It was very concentrated and powerful in this collective walking through.
And it was interesting where it froze. It froze at the place where the mother could influence the purely masculine aspect. So where our mothers collectively downplay or sabotage the purely masculine aspect. This is where we tripped. So it's interesting to understand where we tripped. Well, beautiful theme for meditation.
Well, Jill, it's revealing that you came back out, so you can try it.
Beautiful. Okay, beautiful people. A big hug and lots of love to you. Thank you for the
keep
trust
this in your kit of when you don't know what to do, walk the labyrinth, because you don't know what to do because you're in the labyrinth. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. See you next time and lots of love. Bye. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.